Hello and welcome to the Tekken School series. Today's episode is a super important one. Maybe I should have done it even a bit earlier, but I wanted to cover a lot of basics in Tekken before I go into it. So today's episode is about the practice mode. And practice mode is where the magic happens. No, you don't learn stuff in-game. You may notice stuff in-game, but Tekken has way too much information, too overwhelming, too many characters, too many moves to learn while fighting. This is the place you go to learn. Okay, so practice mode in Tekken 8 is amazing, a lot of improvements, a lot of good stuff, so let's go over it. So the bottom half of this entire menu is kind of like for macro stuff. This like for default, this kind of explains like what each of these things are. If you're not sure what any of these terms means, or like what does punishment training mean, right? So this kind of explains stuff. Character selection, state selection, you don't really need it. You can quick select everything here, right? You can change your character, your stage, your customs even, all in here. This is for controller setup, if you need to change your controller. And for main menu, okay? So that really all the way down to sample combos, right? That's the practice mode. So we're gonna go over, I reset all of my info here, the things that I usually have. I reset all of them so we can kind of learn how to use practice mode. What's a good setting for practice mode? We'll go over that too, so stick with me. Okay, practice settings. Practice settings is like your main setting. It's basically like what you're doing. So you could either set it to CPU, and CPU will have like a computer kind of control the character, right? You see, you can change like the difficulty if you want to have like some challenge, right? But computers in Tekken are and always will be slightly disappointing for high level players, and if you're aspiring to practice, generally speaking, setting this is only useful for when you're trying to practice confirming stuff or doing combos. Okay, so these are the main two that we're going to practice, and we're going to talk about what each one does. So when you're set to offense, you're basically testing your offense. Okay, it means testing your options. So in offense, you have two actions. So you have opponent action. So what they're doing, they could be standing, stand blocking, standing and approaching, which means they'll get closer to you. That's it if you need them to come close. Crouch, crouch block, crouch and follow. So this will be you see like this, kind of like, that's how it looks. Block all, random block, which is a really nice setting if you're practicing like confirming, right? So like, see, now I'm getting a hit, right? So if you're doing like, you're trying to practice like confirming a combo, you'll do this, and then like when you get the hit, right, you can do your combo. Okay, so this is like practicing confirming. It's useful. Jump, this is almost never used, but if you want to check your like float combos, jump is a way to do it, so you can keep that in mind. And mimic, now mimic means that, see, whatever I press, opponent presses. This is mostly to test situations where you're either mostly to test situations after you press something. So let's say I do a jab, right? The opponent is set to mimic after hit or block, right? So you mostly use mimic only after, you don't really use it before, but sometimes you want to use it. And you have controller, it's if you want to control the other character with another controller. It's for like two-player practice mode or things like that. It is useful for two people when they're mostly to practice. Anyway, so the first action is what they are. The second action is what they do after the first action. So you can set up, for example, the opponent to be standing, and then after it, you can set it to block all. That is a very common training mode setting. Okay, so as you can see, this hits. And the reason why that setting is important is because it lets you check what's a true string. So it lets you check, you see, if I just set the opponent to stand, right? I'll do this thing, and I'll get hit, and I'll feel like, oh, that's like a true string. But actually, if we set them up to second action block, we'll see this is actually not guaranteed, right? This is guaranteed, this is not guaranteed. So it's a good way to check what combos, which strings work, which strings need like extra hits. So yeah, second action, you have a few more options. So these are all the options you had before, right? Standing, stand block, stand approach, crouch, all these, jump, mimic, and you also have the sidestep options, backdash options, and punish options. So why are these good? Okay. These are mostly good to check, like when you're starting to think about people sidestepping, you'll see that you can set opponent to kind of like, you jab and then you want to see how do you catch their sidestep, right? So see a lot of things with, oh, but this works, right? This doesn't work, this does work. So it's a good way to check your moves, what was homing properties, what is tracking properties, these kind of like sidestep. You can check what loses to left, what loses to right, and you can use this both for checking how to defend against people. So you can check it also as a defensive measurement. You can also check how people will defend against you. So it's used for both. Sidewalk is basically like they'll do like a full walk, not just a step. It's good to check with both sometimes. Sometimes walk succeeds, but step doesn't. Backdash lets you check what they do on backdash, right? Like, can they backdash my jab, or will my down forward 3 reach? You see, oh, suddenly I see, oh, this setup doesn't work, right? It doesn't work against backdash. And punish. Punish is a super important one. So punish basically is, you see it kind of tells me to set up something. You go into this menu, okay? And menu within a menu, punish means like on hit or block, the opponent will do this move, okay? So this is a really important way to kind of like build your offense and build your defense. So you see, you have like the bot kind of like do a jab there to kind of like time your stuff. And then it will tell you to press a button. And now you'll see what happens if I do my 1, the bot does this, right? Now you can see if the bot presses, this is what happens. This is what will happen in a real match, right? So we can test moves on block and see like what can the opponent do, what can we do about what the opponent does, and so on and so forth, right? For example, we see there's like a lot of, let me kind of show this, right? There's a lot of space after this move, right? So I can low profile the opponent's jabs, even though the opponent is +2 here. I win against the opponent. So you can test a lot of situations. There are in here you have kind of like select from punishment list, so it gives you all sorts of like, see, fast mid attack, fast high attack, fast low attack. It kind of like gives you all sorts of options, but you can just record like this. You don't have to check from the list. You can record whatever you want. As you can see, you have a lot of options here because sometimes you want to record several options. So you see I did a jab, but I'm also going to do down forward 1, okay, which is a fast mid. Right now, if we have both of them set to 1, they will occur at the same statistic, if that makes sense. So they're just as likely to do 1-1 as they are likely to do down forward 1, right? And we don't know what comes out, and we're trying to beat both, right? So that's kind of like a way to practice these things. As you can see, you can test all sorts of things this way. You have both standing punishment and crouching punishment. This is for when the opponent blocks low, you have to record it differently, right? So this, for example, is something they could do on wake up. It could let you test, right? Could let you test what they do if they are crouching. Let's see, crouch block, just to give the example, right? Oh, this punishes this, okay, for example. Or let's do standing block, right? This leaves them crouching, but I'm plus here, so I can test like what can I do after my down forward and down back 3 on hit, right? What can the opponent do, and what can I do about it? So you can test a lot of things this way. Punish is a super useful option. You can also change like the frequency of specific moves if you want them to mostly do this but sometimes do this. There's all sorts of ways to practice using punish. Super useful. The basic settings I recommend you have for opponent actions, either stand, block, or standing, and block all a second, okay? Depending on what you're testing. If you're testing stuff on block, then you'll do stand, block, then block all. Or you'll do stand, block, and punish, and you can also do stand, block, and step, or all sorts of combinations like that. I generally recommend having this as block all unless you're testing something specific, because if you're testing stuff on hit, you don't want to get like hits that you're not supposed to get. For example, let's think of another thing, right? This thing, right? See this, not true string, but on counter hit, it is all guaranteed. So this way, the block all kind of shows you what is and isn't real and when is it real. So super useful. I recommend keeping it either like this or like this, depending on what you're testing, or using the punish mechanic and the sidestep mechanic. Okay, then we go into ground technique. That's the next option here. Okay, ground techniques, you have like these options here. You first have side ukemi, this tech rolling, the thing we talked about in the wake up video. Okay, usually it's good to have them on tech rolling just to see what they can tech roll, right? Because tech rolling is very strong, and it's a very common wake up people use. If you want to check like if the opponent can get out of the move, let me try to think, how do I show? Yeah, like this, for example, right? If you want to see if the opponent can just wake up or not. So you see like there, the opponent kind of rolled. And here the opponent kind of stays on the ground. So you can tell like this is, if they hold back, they can do a back quick roll. Generally speaking, I suggest keeping it on tech rolling. People are tech rolling mostly, so that's important. The second one, you can set up to stand up, wake up, for all the options we talked about, depending on what you're testing. Usually people do wake up backwards when they're not tech rolling. Stand up is also very useful. Testing both is good. Usually I set it up to what people use the most, which is wake up backwards, but remember, sometimes using stand up is better because it wakes up faster and doesn't get hit by some stuff. Sometimes you want to check like side rolling, so make sure to use it based on what you need. Okay, these options are fairly simple. It's a player counter, and you can have shuffle, multiple counter hits, and counter hit. So basically, you mostly only use this or this. You don't really use this. This means like that you'll get like multiple counter hits. It's if the opponent is like mashing while getting counter hit, I assume. So not a very common occurrence. But yeah, you'll either test like counter hit if you want your opponent to always get counter hits, or you can test shuffle if you want to confirm counter hits, right? So I'm doing, let me real quick do not set. So, right, this is a counter hit confirmed that you can do with Fang. So if you want to check your counter hit confirming, you can do shuffle, and shuffle is basically just like random counter hits. Okay, you can have counter hits on the opponent as well if you're testing opponent counter hits. You can have rage. Having rage is usually not a bad thing to set on in case you want to use it, but just remember that it boosts your damage. So make sure to not like think you're doing X damage when you're actually doing a bit less if you don't have rage. Heat, again, it's like activate heat if you want to be in heat. You can have no heat, right, where it's like already gone, and no heat limit. This is the normal setting to be in, right? So you can test like stuff with your heat, but sometimes you want to check what happens when you already used your heat, right? This is a heat engager. How does it look like? What does it do? What's the interactions in different situations, say like this or other heat engagers that you have. So these are the uses. Opponent heat, again, if you want to use the opponent's heat. Player throw escape and opponent throw escape. So this is sometimes useful if you're practicing like against some stuff and you want to see situations on throw escape, right? To see, oh, I'm like, apparently I'm -6 after this throw escape, right? Or this throw escape, I'm -3. I'm -6 here, right? So just to kind of like learn the situation on the throw escapes, it's not bad. I don't really know why I would set up player throw escape, but maybe you want to see what happens if you escape somebody's throw. And you have neutral block or don't block. So it's like basically if it's like if being a neutral blocks or not. There is no reason to really change this. Input delay frames is if you're practicing like playing online. So now everything I do is delayed by 6 frames. This is horrible. It feels terrible. Basically, you can use this to practice. If you're practicing, usually you set it up to either 2 or 3, and it'll give you more of a feel of how it feels like to play online, and like doing combos online maybe, right? It is useful, but don't focus about it too much. Okay, so this is like the main setting. This is how I would keep your main setting, usually, with like offense, standing block, side ukemi, left or right, doesn't matter. Or it doesn't matter, but you don't have to worry about it too much, unless you know your opponent. Your opponents want to attack one way or another, and wake up backwards. Okay, and we said we have also defense, and this is of course to practice your defense. And over here, you have the same options as before, right? Counter hit, rage, heat, throw escape, neutral, and input delay. And you have these kind of CPU actions. So these are the same as what we saw earlier. You can choose moves from the opponent's list. You can choose any move. Okay, you don't have to remember what it is. You can choose whatever you see them in the replay doing, right? So maybe I want to practice against this move, right? So you go like this, and you'll see that now suddenly you have options at the bottom that says, for me, it's like the circle plus the, you know, the pad, like the touchpad thing. If I press those, then they will start doing stuff, right? And this is what I'm practicing against. Smooth -9. I want to see what I can do against it, right? What can I press after this thing? So that's how you kind of like record. You can record more complicated actions as well. Like if you want to record like a flow chart you see somebody doing, they're doing like maybe they're doing 1-2 into dick jab, right? And that was really annoying you. Or maybe they're doing something from stance and you want to deal with all their stances. This mode really shines when you start recording a lot of things. Okay, so let me just set up okay, so record. Yeah, okay. So June has this like stance where she does like these like annoying options. So you can record June going into stance, right? And you'll record like different options. Okay, so I recorded 3 options, for example, that you can do from the stance. And now when we want to practice, okay, you have like the, you have the action intervals. You can set it to short or normal if you want to have some time to think in between. And what happens if I block this this string? I want to see what happens, right? So now, right, I have the low. At the low I can launch punish. And there is also the mid, right? Which she might do at some point. Anyway, you can control the frequency as always, and you can isolate them to find like specific counterplay to each one. Right, this is -13. It lets you kind of check all the information. So all this amazing. Okay, so we kind of covered what defense is, what's it for. We covered offense, what's it for. I don't really use the CPU one. I don't think it's that useful. Let's go to restart setting, and restart setting is also fairly simple. As default 2, which is basically if the stage has a stain change, that's how it looks like. You have current player position, right, which is basically always reset where you're at, right? If you want to create like the same spacing but in a different place. You have wall if the stage is a wall, which I think all stages do now. So you can reset the wall. You can reset after wall break if the stage has it. So if you're like practicing a wall break combo or like what you do there's the hard wall break, which is over here in this stage, and you have not set, which means that no matter what you press, nothing will happen. Generally, you have it at default, unless you're practicing something specific. Player directions will set up how do you start, okay? These kind of like off-axis stuff. It's either if you're practicing off-axis combos, or if you're checking people's back turns options, or if you're checking for wake-up stuff. So you can see you can control the player and the opponent's directions. You can also control their status. This is how we did like the whole wake-up practicing thing. So you can, right, you'll see that you can set up a lot of different wake-ups. If you're trying to practice something, these are the ways to do it. You can set up the player and also the opponent to be either face up, down, and all the other directions. And switch position is basically just makes it so you go to the other side. If you want to practice the other side in the same practice mode, there's no problem. And you have status record. And status record is basically used like on the pad. I use my joystick. I press it, and you can record a status. And why is that useful? So let me just tell them to follow me real quick so we can go all the way here. Okay, so if I record, you see that the normal reset is over here, but if I use my recording, which I use with my left stick, right, I record with my right, and I go back with my left stick, I can go to a different saved position. This saved position is insanely good because it also keeps your counter hit status, right? So you see right now I'm without it, but if I save again, I'll be with it, right? Even though I don't have counter hit on. It can save all sorts of other power-ups you've had. It can save like your heat, right? You can save mid combo, mid situation if you want to practice like a specific combo, right? And you want to test like from this kind of situation, right? What do I do if I'm in this situation? You can use it at any given point. It is amazing. So yeah, I really recommend using the status record. It's really good for practice. It lets you practice very specific situations in more finer detail. Okay, display history. Display settings. Display settings are basically what you show on the screen. You see I have a lot of stuff showing. So you have command history. This kind of shows like what I'm pressing right on the left. This is really useful if you're making videos and people want to actually know what you're doing. I don't know why people have it off when they make videos. It feels like so informative, so I would never turn it off. You have the HUD, which is basically just like the characters. Mostly people use this when they record stuff for visual stuff, I think. Usually you have it on. Player attack info. Okay, so this is let me kind of like not show anything so you guys can see how it looks like. And then yeah, see now I don't have anything here. Player attack info is just like info over here. It tells you how much damage I did in practice mode, how much the best damage I did, how much the best combo I did was. The hit property, you see it kind of says it's a high. It says this is a mid, this is a low. It says your damage percentage. It's basically scaling because hits during combos scale. So you'll see that if I hit this, the hit scaling starts to go down. It kind of gives you more in-depth information and how much recoverable damage you're doing, right? So when you're doing combos, right, you start doing recoverable damage. And as you can see, it tells you the percent and how much recoverable damage you dealt. I generally recommend having these things on. If you're trying to learn. If it bothers you or if you're just practicing combos and things like that, you don't need it on. The player frame info is even more important sometimes. It gives you your startup, right? It gives you the frame advantage or the frame situation on block and on hit, on anything. You have your status. So as you can see, you can be standing, crouching, airborne. If the tick rolled, it says invincible real quick because they are invincible, right? Like this. And it tells you your distance from opponent, which helps kind of when you try to measure your like range of options. Like if you want to tell like, oh, I can hit my opponent with this at 2.5, right? Let's say I go to 2.6. Oh, it doesn't hit anymore, right? So this way you kind of know like your range on options. You get a better feel for them. Maybe like now you want to test, okay, I can hit with that move. Do I have a mid that hits there? Oh, I do. I have that mid, which hits at like about the same range, right? So this and this, right, they have similar startups, a mid and a low, so I can use them kind of like together, right? So it gives you all these kind of like information. And at the end you have hit properties. Hit properties basically just tells you on the screen what's a high, mid, or a low. If you're practicing against a character you don't really know, you're not too familiar with them, and you want to check like what are highs and lows, it's like it just clarifies things. So this is like how I keep mine. I just like to see the information. I know some people don't like it, so you can take it off. Okay, we're off to the easier part of training mode. So punishment training is basically has two modes, normal and hard. Normal kind of like tells you what you're supposed to do. So it tells you like, oh, block here and punish this way, right? It gives you key moves from each character. It's good to do them. It just gets you familiar with things the opponent may do and how to punish them. Hard mode is a bit more important, right? It doesn't tell you initially what you're about to do. It just like shuffles between like the different moves, right? And it checks how well you can punish them, right? Oops. Right, so this way you can like test yourself, see if you've done well, if you remember. This is basically the real test. This is just like the practice mode. Both are good. Use them both if you're struggling to punish people. It's a good way to practice. Combo challenges. Do your combo challenges. They're fun, okay? They're not necessarily good combos, but you know, they just kind of get you familiar with like combo tools, right? I don't think these should take too long to do. Once you get like familiar with your character, right? They should be fairly easy, right? I'm trying to see like I don't remember when I did this, but I think I should be able to clear them fairly easily. again, like, remember that what they're teaching you is just like what do your tools do. You don't have to take these combos and copy paste them. Just like, oh, I can dash cancel this move. I can use this as an ender. These are the things you want to learn from these kind of combo challenges. Oh, I can use, yeah, I can use this as like a part of a combo, right? Jesus, these combos are terrible though. I'm joking. If these combos are good for you, of course you can use them. And yeah, see, you're already doing not that bad of damage. What do you want me to do? Oh, okay. These are so unintuitive to me because I'm so used to confirming in a specific way. And amazing, we got our 11 challenges done. Okay, so combo challenges, they're nice. And yeah, I'm skipping move list for a moment. I'm going to sample combos first. Sample combos, it kind of shows you the same combos, but with the annotation. If you want to kind of like play the demo, if you want to see a computer doing it, you can do it by pressing X, or at least on the pad it's X. And you can do a triangle to kind of show it during your practice if you're not sure, if you want to just like kind of like have a look at it, right? So all these are like kind of useful to learn. Okay, last one is the move list, and move list is the daunting thing in Tekken. A lot of people struggle with this. So in Tekken 8, they added main techniques where you can kind of see all these options. This is kind of like summarized options they think are like good that you should kind of be familiarized with if you're like a Fang player, or if you're playing against Fang players. See, they put like armor moves, like fast mids, like things you can dash from, right, the heat smash. And here they're showing like heat smash, and they're saying like, oh, be careful, he has a low there, right? So they're kind of showing you all sorts of stuff. Otherwise, you can go to all techniques. This guy, the first section just shows you like what he does in heat, right? All his heat moves. And then you go to rage, and then normal moves, which is like all of his like strings. Now remember, not all moves are actually shown in practice mode. This is like something a lot of people are not familiar with. They don't really show you jab, jab. They don't show you standing 4, standing 3 sometimes. Like they show most moves, but not all moves are shown. This is like a flaw of Tekken. I don't know why it's like this, but as you can see, you can go down, and each move you'll see, if you have the frame data showing, you'll get information. What did they do on hit? You can check them yourself for block and things like that. And yeah, and you have like these little information on the bottom right. You can see it's, oh, this does chip damage on block, this has a punch parry effect, and that's how you can learn a lot about these characters, right? You do this and you can hold back to face backwards. So a lot of information here. Usually when I pick up a character, I first go over all the moves, and I don't do it to remember them. Remembering them is unnecessary. I just want to get like a vibe of the character. I want to see like, oh, what do they have? What can they do? Maybe I find something cool. And then like if I find something that like piques my interest, I'll remember that, and I'll check what that does later, right? So yeah, that's like that's the move list, and that's training mode. Okay, training mode is an amazing place. You can learn a lot here. So yeah, make sure to use it, even if it's just to practice some combos or just like do some weird setups. Okay, if you're into that kind of thing. And yeah, these are the settings I usually keep on. I sometimes change it to block if I want to practice stuff on block, or I sometimes change it to step if I want to see like my tracking and homing moves. But yeah, that's training mode, and I hope that was useful. The homework for today is going to practice mode, setting up your practice mode, and you know, just kind of exploring your move list, doing your challenges, doing everything, making sure you understand like your training mode. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.